Welcome to Loudmouth Sports Talk, y'all. My name is Robbie, and we are here with your Tuesday night roundtable featuring the one, the only Vinny Goodfella Pizzulo. How you doing tonight, Vinny?
Good,
Everybody
very
hear
good.
me?
Thanks for having me, fellas. Appreciate it.
Yes. So, Vinny, there's a notable boxing event that's
Yeah.
coming up this shortly. I don't know what day it is. Somebody's going to know. I'm sure these two gentlemen that are involved know. They are Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. The two of them combined are over 100 years old. You put the two of them together, you get a Galapagos tortoise. So what do you think? Is this going to be a good fight?
I think it'd be entertaining, man. I really do. I said, obviously, being a combat veteran myself, that's something like this. Obviously, I think it's going to be way more competitive than a Conor McGregor, Mayweather match. And obviously, I think it's a lot more for pride. Obviously, it is an exhibition, but in our world, exhibition is, doesn't mean a whole lot. You're still going to go with the same intensity. Other than obviously most of these sports with dealing with the virus, not really having the fans to kind of amp it up. That might be the only low, but other than that, I think it should be pretty competitive for about 3 rounds. After that, sometimes they say sometimes when the bus starts hitting the Volkswagen, bad things happen. So the bus being Mike Tyson, of course.
Yeah, Mike Tyson is he's a guy who stayed in shape ever since the end of his professional career. He's somebody who I think if you walked up to him in a bar or an alley or really even in a church, you'd be intimidated by him and you wouldn't want to step in front of him for any reason whatsoever, not even to say hello. Does Roy Jones look as fight ready as Mike Tyson?
Yeah. I think most professional fighters, Rob, I think a lot of these guys, they stay in shape, and now they know something like this is coming up. I think he's taking Tyson pretty seriously. I mean, they were supposed to fight back in the day when Jones came up to cruiserweight. Obviously, he spent a lot of time out of the game, but right now, I think Mike Tyson's got a lot more to prove than Roy Jones. But the fact, I think you mentioned the no head rule, no hitting the head. And initially, there was a headgear issue, which obviously leans more towards Tyson's style and getting inside and being able to, work that body and his movement. Like you say, at 56, I believe he is, 50, 55, 56. Jones is 51. So you basically, with a boxer's ability, Jones would have the ability to try and outbox him a few rounds. But I think Tyson, even playing checkers against Tyson would be, at some point you have to watch something's coming. It's just a matter of time before he lands that shot. And unfortunately, Jones in the last few fights he did have professionally, he showed that he had a little bit of a spot on chin. So Tyson right now, I think is a different breed. He's always has been, but I think he should be entertaining. If nothing else.
All right, well, cool. We're gonna go around the table, see if anybody else has got any questions. George, what do you got for him?
What's up, Ben? Thanks for joining the show. Again, you alluded to it a little bit, but what do you think this fight means for the boxing community? Obviously, having two big names come back and fight's pretty cool. But do you think it's more gimmicky, or do you actually think it's going to be a decent fight?
I think it's going to be a good show. I think honestly, I figure, like you say, we're all going through here right now. Obviously, the people needing sports. It's a time like this, we're all in lockdown, and any little bit of entertainment, especially combat sports of any kind. I mean, if you're into some type of competition to get you involved, I think it'll be. I think it should be a lot more aggressive and intentional than a lot of people think, rather than just two guys get in there for a celebrity boxing match. I think these guys, both of them have something to prove, and it does obviously motivate. I believe even guys like myself, who are over 40, that say, man, I'm sitting on my couch today, but if these guys are able to do it in their 50s, let's motivate those guys in their 30s and 40s to get off the couch and say, let me train, let me get some more working out in. But I think overall it should be pretty competitive. At the same time, set the fuse, because Dana White, obviously with the UFC, Fight Island has been putting fights on every week. He's been doing very well. And boxing's kind of, falling asleep out there, just trying to get everybody tested. And so hopefully they do the right thing, and people can see some real boxing and some legends go at it. It's only something you probably do on a video game, for guys that are
Yeah.
really into boxing and stuff like that. But I think I'm looking forward to it. It should be a good time.
Awesome. Dame, what you got?
I guess my only thing, um, I don't necessarily know all the history of these two fighters. I know Mike Tyson is a huge name, big power guy. I don't know anything about Roy Jones' boxing career, but I imagine he was pretty good. Is there any history that makes this fight specifically important, or is there no tension between them?
Well, I know initially they were supposed to have a fight. Um, at the time, I believe, which is kind of odd. Roy Jones, I believe, the '90s, he dominated that division. I mean, he was pound for pound one of the best fighters. The '80s in the heavyweight division, Mike Tyson was pound for pound the best. So you have almost the best and the best. And right around towards the time, I believe that hard to say. Roy Jones fought, took the fight instead with Antonio Tarver. He was going to take it with Tyson, but obviously, money rules. So they had an issue there. But there was definitely a fight supposed to happen back in the day that didn't when Jones went up to cruiserweight and he stopped John Ruiz. And now to see them both get it on, like you say in the '50s, it's kind of mind blowing to see both of these guys are in phenomenal shape. And
Right.
it would should turn out to be like you say. Unfortunately, you got to give stylistically a boxer, condition wise, it's an 8 rounder, I believe. Normally, I don't think either one of them is going to need the gas. I don't think it's going to go 8 rounds. I think once the first punch is thrown, all that, you know, exhibition and let's just move around, have some fun. We're competitors. We have by competitive nature. I think once that first punch is thrown, you're going to see Mike Tyson using that head movement, bobbing and weaving, coming through and trying to take Roy Jones's body completely apart.
Right.
I really think that again, like you said, once that first hit happens, I think somebody's going to have to try to be in Mike's ear the entire time and be like, "Hey, bro, this is for fun. This isn't for taking bodies." Because we all know Mike's that kind of guy that he'll take somebody's head off.
Oh yeah, in a hurry. I mean, it can in a hurry, like you say, at any time, anywhere he plays, man, to drop the hat, a personality like that. He's done so many good things and kind of, evolved over the last 10 years. But when those gloves get back on and he starts getting that adrenaline pumping, it's like you say, somebody's gonna have to be reminded of kind of Rocky IV. And here, it's only an exhibition. In his mind, he's thinking, not for me. So I believe Jones knows that too. So he's not going in there, a little jab and here to, play with Mike, because Mike is nobody to play with, man. It's like trying to catch a rattlesnake. Eventually it's going to bite.
Rob, you got a question for him? I know you were supposed to be next on the table, but you
all of a sudden my computer froze up and it booted me out and I was able to get right back in. Ben, you said that I haven't really paid too much attention to what was going on. I was excited to hear that Tyson and Jones Jr. were going to get together for an exhibition. You said there was no head hits. How long before you actually think one of them slips and connects with something and it turns into a brawl?
That's a great question.
Because in pride things involved. One of these guys is going to slip and connect with somebody's chin, and it's going to turn into a little bit rougher than what they think it's going to be.
I think I wasn't aware. I think I spoke to Rob earlier, and he mentioned the no head hitting rule, which to me was kind of like, I used to train with guys in the gym, and some guys would wear headgear, some wouldn't. And the guys that wouldn't were smart enough to know, hey, you know what? You can hit me in the head. I just don't want to wear headgear. Knowing that if I keep hitting your body, obviously my chin is wide open. So he's got the advantage. But if it's just body shots, I don't foresee it's not going to take long before it gets all out. And I don't know how you're going to be able to hold that self-control and not to be able to swing up top, because it's just a natural instinct. It's kind of like telling a mixed martial artist, don't throw a kick. In the middle of a fight and say, don't pick up your leg and kick. It's already mechanically for years. It's already there. So once you go down, it's an instinct to come back up with something. And hopefully, things don't get out of control, because things can get out of control in a hurry.
Yeah.
For sure.
Sorry.
Cool.
All right, well, I've just got one more for you. We've talked about everything from who's going to get punched in the head first to what kind of shape are these guys in, but we haven't asked you, what do you think is going to happen? What's the outcome going to be? What is your official prediction for the fight there, good fella?
Prediction. Pain. Mr. T's favorite line, right? My prediction for the fight, I mean, like you say, looking at them both train and watching them, and obviously both of them, going through the 80s and 90s and watching them both do great things. Love Jones' style as a boxer. Tyson, a little bit more my style, to be in and out. He's got to get inside to work and be effective. He can't fight from the outside. Jones is kind of going to be handcuffed right now, because his boxing ability is not going to play a whole big part within 8 rounds. He's going to try and jab and keep him away, but Tyson's head movement, the way he's moving out, and his power that he's throwing, I got. If I had to make a prediction, I probably would say 3 rounds is all it's going to go, and probably if it's just body blows, which is hard to imagine, Tyson's going to catch him with a liver shot, step around him, and probably start going back with custom model used to teach him. Punch, step to the side, but he's an inside fighter. So I got to give the edge to Tyson, being that it's, if it's a body shot game only, then, Jones is really, you better keep his elbows in, man, because it could be a couple of broken ribs happening.
Yeah.
All right, well, good stuff. Anybody else got any more questions for Vinny Pizzulo?
Not from me.
No? Vinny, thanks so much for joining us. You've been awesome. Best boxing interview we've had so far. And next time there's a huge fight, we'll look forward to having you on again.
Yes,
Thank you very much, fellas. I appreciate it. Take
Definitely.
care of yourself. Best wishes on the show. You guys are all right, man.
Thanks, Ben.
Take care of yourself.
Take care, man.
See you, brother.
Have a good
All right, Robbie. Well, we'll keep you up at the plate. And we'll,
You're a funny guy.
Go right into baseball.
You hit him right in the Wilson bag.
Yeah, we're going to do pretty much every sport real quick, especially the active ones. So, again, give us a couple highlights so far and kind of your thoughts on the progress so far with the MLB.
Well, Rob Manfred's not super happy with MLB right now, and that's understandable given that I know, shocker, right? But, given that there have been 3 teams with COVID outbreaks from 2 to 20 people, Rob Manfred is not having such a great time at the moment being the commissioner of this league. Speaking of which, the first team that was infected, the Florida Marlins, formerly the Florida Marlins, the Miami Marlins, they are back tonight. They're going to get in there and get their asses handed to them for the first time in 2 weeks. So that'll be good for them. Speaking of, on the flip side of the spectrum, we got the St. Louis Cardinals. They are up to 13 active COVID cases.
Damn, St. Louis COVID.
Yeah, I know. Who the hell? How many? Are there even enough people in St. Louis to contract COVID? But that's neither here nor there.
Both teams cross path at all so far?
They have not. No, the Cardinals and the Marlins have not crossed yet. I don't know who the Cardinals have played thus far this season, but I don't think they played Philly, and they certainly haven't played Miami.
They played the Pirates right before they started getting positive tests.
Maybe it's just the whole state of Pennsylvania then. So y'all better keep quarantined. We're gonna go on to something a little bit more exciting than COVID. Then, nice, Rob. That's gross.
It's high five, man.
We got some news out of Los Angeles. The Angels are making tons of moves lately, and by tons of moves, I mean they're bringing up one guy, and he's probably better than everyone they've paid thus far. Joe Adell, baseball's consensus top 5 prospect. He is a hyper stud. He's got elite power. Right now, he's kind of just hitting the gaps, but you give him a year or two with a major league coach, and he'll start whacking dingers. But he's a legit 5-tool player. He's the guy that they have expected the most to be help for Mike Trout, more so than any of their free agent signings. He's going to be brought up today. Mike Trout's being activated off the paternity list, so that's 2 big pieces of their outfield right there. Most likely that Adell's going to start in a platoon with Brian Goodwin because Adell is a right-handed batter and he's going to hit better against lefties. Goodwin's a left-handed batter.
Lost a lot of weight.
That is true. Also true.
Hello.
Lost that train of thought. Where we at? Okay. Shohei Ohtani is done pitching for the season, which makes sense because he sucked. He threw 1 2/3 innings through 2 games, and he got absolutely shelled. He allowed 8 walks, which at my worst, I didn't walk 8 dudes in 2 innings. He only gave up 3 hits, but somehow his earned run average sits north of 37.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's lower than some of the Pirates guys. Wow.
Yeah, no. A high earned run average is 5. A terrible earned run average is 9. The earned run average that gets you cut from a team is like 6. 37 is unfathomable. So it makes sense that Shohei Ohtani is done pitching for the season. He is going to go back to his more effective game plan, which is to hit, where he has a scorching 148 batting average.
That's tops on the
Speaking of
Buccos.
hitters, that would actually be pretty close. I was actually looking on the Angels because they're looking like rough shit right now. Where he would land on the roster in terms of where he would rank in terms of batting average. They've had 16 guys take at bats. He's 13th on the team in batting average.
Jesus.
Right around the same range as him is one legendary Albert Pujols. Albert Pujols is 2 home runs away from tying Willie Mays for 5th all time. He sits at 658. He's on pace to hit at least 2 more in the next 50 games. So hopefully he can do that. More notably, he is 6 RBI away from tying Alex Rodriguez for 3rd all time. Now, if he doesn't completely break down next season, which one would argue that he's been broken down for 7 seasons, but if he decides to play 1 more after this one, he could actually move himself into 2nd place with a decent enough season. He could pass Babe Ruth at 2,214. Beyond that, I've got 1 more call up. It is Luis Patino. He is younger than all of us, and he is half the age of Rob down there. He's 20 years old. He is among the top
3 more years.
He is among the top prospects in the Padres system. He has never been above Double-A, and even as he sits, he's got less than 1 full game at Double-A, and they are already bringing him up to the majors. But that's because he's got an upper 90s fastball, he's got a plus slider, he's got at least average curveball and changeup, and he sits at a 2.35 ERA through 234 minor league innings. He got picked up real young.
Cholesterol.
That's lower than your cholesterol. But no,
Actually,
he is
my cholesterol's under 200, so I'm good. Anyways.
solid. Well done. I don't think
You
you're
literally have
a lot of
Courtney
cheese
on the
lately.
ground.
Love it.
But as far as baseball goes, that's just about it. Move through the boring sport in less than 5 minutes. So all y'all fans out there of sports that move a little bit faster than 3 hours for 9 innings, you're welcome.
So we're going to do 3 hours for some skating around on some
Good stuff. I'll see y'all later.
Let's do the hockey. Hey, it's nice getting back to the winning ways with the Pens, getting off the schneid there with the Matt Murray shit show that was the other night. A lot of people were defending him. Like, he gave up 2 bad goals. 1 goal was Jack Johnson running over Zach Aston Reese that causes the goal. Power play was god-awful. It was abysmal. It was kind of like, I was going to say something really messed up, but I like George.
Oh.
That makes one of it.
But no, getting back on it last night was nice. Coming out and scoring right off the bat. John Marino, I would have to say, made his presence known last night. He basically really showed himself to the NHL last night. He logged just over 22 minutes of ice time. Was second on the team behind Chris Letang with his 25 minutes of ice time. It was nice to see Chris Letang's ice time go from 31 to 32 minutes down to 25 minutes, because I'm tired of seeing him making that cross ice pass get picked off and then go the other way. Even on the power play, taking a half slap shot and hitting the freaking top of the glass. He couldn't hit the broadside of the barn if he wanted to. But they still let this nut slapper freaking take shots from the point. But like, just seeing Matt Murray have his confidence again. He played with some swagger last night. He was confident. He was able to move the puck. He was controlling his rebounds. It was really nice to see. And hopefully we could stick with that, Matt Murray. Another sidebar with the Rangers and Canes. It's an elimination game right now. It's 0-0 at the end of the first. For the first time in 14 years, King Henrik Lundqvist did not start a playoff game for the New York Rangers. It was Igor Shestukin that started the game tonight. It's just rarefied air. You're seeing, the guys that you looked up to as a kid, watching these guys all starting to fall by the wayside now as they're getting older.
Wait, Rob, there's no way you looked up to Lundqvist as a kid. You were probably 20 years old when he started.
He's right. He's like the same size, same age. He's close.
We can say we looked up to him as a kid.
Yeah, well,
it doesn't
you
work
still
like
look up to me as a kid though, so that's okay. But anyway, we'll move on. Penn's, tied the series up. We got a game tomorrow night, 8:00. Thank God it's not on NBC because some of us people who have Dish Network and freaking NBC fighting with freaking Dish Network on a couple dollars is freaking ridiculous. It's a local goddamn channel that you should be able to stream for free, but they're fighting over money on the freaking thing. So thank God AT&T Sports picked up the the Penguin games too, so I can watch it then. It's freaking ridiculous. But other series are tied up. Chicago Edmonton series has been fantastic. Like I said, it was going to be. Connor McJesus had a hat trick yesterday. Even yesterday when Carolina and the Rangers played, Svechnikov had a hat trick yesterday. So he's the first ever Carolina or Hartford Whaler that had a hat trick in a playoff game.
Wow,
first ever in their franchise history. So that's kind of cool too, like little tidbits. But other than that, I mean, we're just hoping for another win tomorrow night.
Are you willing to say tomorrow is a must-win for the Pens?
Every game's a must-win.
yeah.
It's a best of 5. It's a best of 3 series now. It's a must. Everyone's a must-win. They have to win. It is dire need. You have to win. It's dire need. No doubt about it. No mistakes. Balls to the wall. Score goals. Be better on the power play, because that's really the only facet of the game that needs fixed now is the power play. It still sucks. They put Hornquist back on the power play as the net front presence. Thank God, but it still needs work. It does. It needs work.
Yeah, starting off both games with almost 200 shots or 20 shots in the first period, to finally only bury one last night by Sid. I mean, that's a hard way to start, and then. Have we converted any power plays yet?
Yeah, one last.
That's what I was going to say. I would say maybe one at best.
1 for 7 in game 1.
And then from our comments, I'm not sure if you know this, isn't Marino leading in hits?
He had no hits per the score sheet last night.
Okay.
That I think Tanev, Bluegrass, and Reese line is the one leading. That whole line's leading in hits. But last night, John Marino they credited him for no hits last night. So like that stat could be close. I can look it up right now. It'll take me 2 seconds.
Question from Steve Peters again. It's not a question, but he says Price can't keep playing like he is with the pressure the Pens have going. He's going to falter in a game. So the way I feel, I disagree. I think Price can keep it up because he's rested. He's had months off. He hasn't been training his body. I think he can keep it up, but I think the Pens have to convert. They have to be better.
They definitely have to. Yeah.
But so do you think Carey Price can keep up with the way he's playing?
Oh, honestly, if you look at the way Carey Price played last night, I think that might have been the game he faltered. He was a little more uneasy handling the puck behind the net last night, and getting net front presence. He doesn't like having anybody anywhere near his crease. He's one of those goaltenders that he's like old Ron Hextall. I mean, that's before all your guys' time.
Wow, can you please stop throwing us 1948 people?
He was in the 80s and 90s, man. He was still in the 90s when he played. Just because you weren't born or even woke yet, you know what I mean? Come on, man. No, he would sit there and hack and whack guys. I mean, you young folk can watch YouTube and see all these little videos and stuff. Like, come on, man. We have the technology. Let's see. We'll go through. You wanted to know stats on hits. Let's see. Yeah, we got nothing. It says he's credited for 2 hits.
He's still playing really well. I like him.
The puck movement alone, the way he was able to dangle in the corner in game 1 and then came out and passed it out and watched it go by the wayside. When hard work goes like that, then it has to pay off.
I feel like another guy that I've, again, continued to watch, I'll say falter, is Peterson. They've been talking about him just not kind of living up to that new contract that we just gave him.
Yeah, he's not bad. He's still young. I mean, he's 22 years old. So he's still got a lot of growing too. Plus, I mean, he played for the Ducks. That's a horrible system he was playing in. He was a healthy scratch here and there, and he was like one of their best defensemen. So I don't. I don't know. It's one of those hard things to, the book's still out. Granted, he did get a nice contract, for not showing so much. But looking at like John Marino's going to cash in. I mean, if that kid doesn't, I mean, something's wrong.
He's definitely a kid that we have to lock up.
Because Justin Schultz is going to be gone because he's a free agent after this season anyway, so he's definitely gone. And there's going to be they might buy out Jack Johnson, and Patrick Hornquist might be another one of those cap casualty guys too. So, I think the game for Horny's a little slow. He played better yesterday, but it's a younger man's game and speed, and he just doesn't have that speed anymore.
Yeah, and Gensel's slowly but surely becoming a crease body as well as being able to attack. So
yeah, not bad for 165 pounds, right?
Yeah, he's a little scrapper. Whenever I worked at the casino, it was always funny watching him come in. You would never think he's 21. And if you had me bet money, I would never imagine he's from Minnesota, right?
Yep.
I would have never guessed he was from Minnesota. I guess he was from Cali. But again, he's another one that he just has such great talent. Yesterday, whenever they were showing us showing numbers on the screen before that game, him being 43 points in 41 playoff games is pretty impressive in his young career.
Hey, Rob, we got another question.
I say that with the 15 shots.
The 15 shots so far from Malkin. So far, do you think Malkin is due in tomorrow's game?
He is way overdue. I think he's just snake bit. It was the same way with Jason Zucker. Him getting that pass from Sherry last night was – you could see the relief in Zucker's face that he's like, finally I scored because he missed 3 open net, chances before. Malkin's just – it's almost like Carey Price has his number. He knows exactly where he's going to be. He knows when he's going to shoot. I'm pretty sure he is due. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a big game tomorrow because he's been playing really well. He hasn't made the typical Gino mistakes of like coughing up the puck and then coming back and then taking a dumb penalty at the wrong time. So yeah, I'm thinking he's due. He has to be because we had a couple comments of fans saying that Gino and Sid have to carry the team. They have to carry the team. Your secondary scoring has to help carry this team, especially in times like this. I mean, you can't just rely on 2 guys. You have to have scoring for them.
Right.
You have scoring depth. You have to.
I thought when he watching that comment, and I'm like, so you're telling me that the guys who deal with the top of the top every day has to step up, like they just don't show up at all. Like it's easy to go against. And
you read my comment, huh? That's exactly what I said. I said you got the Gino and Sid going against their top defensive pairings and top checking lines night in and night out. I mean, granted, there's going to be times where you may have to change up your lines a little bit. Maybe bump, flip flop Gensel and Zucker around. Because honestly, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. They all played well together before. But you do have to get some scoring out of that third line with McCann, Marlowe, and Hornquist right now. They need to get at least a goal every other game for them to really compete, because if not, it's going to be rough sailing, and then whoever they end up playing in that real first round of the the playoffs.
All right, Rob. Before you go, prediction: who's winning the game? What's the score?
I think it's going to be Pens 5-2. They're going to get at least 2 power play goals. They'll be like 2 for 4 on the power play, so it'll make at least me feel better a little bit. My the acid reflux at least will be down. I won't have to take some Alka-Seltzer or nothing like that. So Yeah, it'll be a 5-2 Pens win. They'll go 2 for 4 in a power play.
Hey, last thing, do you think Sully makes any changes, or does he ride out with the lineup currently?
He'll ride it out. Yeah, he's a creature of habit. Unless there's an injury that we don't know of, it'll still be the exact same lineup.
All right, Robbie. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Got it, man.
All right, Dame. So how's basketball been looking? How do you feel everything's been rolling in the bubble? And I guess give us your progress thoughts.
Well, to continue off where we ended yesterday with my show, the Lakers played at 9. We got off right before they started. Anthony Davis went for 42 points and 12 rebounds, so he had himself a night. LeBron definitely showed up more than I've been giving him credit for. He was a few assists and 1 rebound, or the other way around, from a triple-double and 22 points on top of that. I think he had 8 assists or 8 rebounds. Yeah, he had 8 rebounds and 9 assists, so that was looking a lot better for him than I've been giving him credit for. And then continuing on into today, it hasn't looked so pretty. Giannis had gotten dunked on. He was also almost in a fight with Dante Hall, who shoved him. Don't know the reasoning behind it, but they were almost in a fight. And the Bucks took a loss to the Nets, which I don't think.
Who is Dante Hall?
Exactly, my point. Devin Booker today against the Clippers. He took the Phoenix Suns to a victory with a game-winning shot at the buzzer.
Did he call game?
He definitely called game, as the name of my show. TJ Warren, once again, going off. He has now totaled 119 points in 3 games. He started off with a 53-point game. He had a 34-point game 2 nights ago, and he ended today with 32 points on top of that. Another big loss in the league, Jaren Jackson Jr. was diagnosed with a meniscus tear. So he is now done. Nobody knows when he will return, but he is out for this year's restart season and probably the playoffs if the Memphis Grizzlies make it there.
Hey, so Dang, real quick. So is there anything that surprised you so far this week? Anything that stood out since the bubble started? Is there any team that you have been surprised to watch?
Well, if we want to go from there, I will say straight off the bat, I am terribly surprised that the Nets beat the Bucks. I never in my life would have thought that would have happened.
Giannis and Middleton only played the first half.
Okay, well, there you go. There's why. Right now, I've got the Boston Celtics and Miami Heat game on, and the rivalry looks like it is being renewed, so that is always a positive thing to see. And I'm shocked by the Clippers dropping that game, even though they're missing 2 of their biggest game time players in Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams, who's still out because of his suspension.
Lemon Pepper Lou.
But nothing else really to say. There hasn't been anything that stands out to me outside of the fact that TJ Warren is the scoring leader for the Pacers. And really just to round it out and shout out to be there on Mondays, 8 o'clock or 8:30, depending on game times of Monday night.
I think for me, man, I think the Rockets, I'm very impressed at the Rockets and Celtics. I think those are 2 guys who stand out for sure.
I mean, the Rockets don't really surprise me. As much as their small ball lineup is different, I'm not terribly surprised by the fact that they're putting up the numbers that they're still putting up because they do have scorers. So even when they play small, if the other team decides to play big, they have a mismatch on the outside, and a team isn't going to beat them trading 3s for 2s. So it's not something that's like, holy hell, that shouldn't be working. It's the NBA, and to some people, sadly, the NBA's turned into a shooters league, and other people, it's just advanced to a more talented sport.
Did you see we got a question from Littell Williams?
Oh.
Hey, is TJ Warren having a breakout tournament, or is it just a spurt?
I think he could. I think this could be a breakout for him.
He's kind of always been able to go en fuego whenever, but
Yeah,
It's not a COVID breakout.
in college he was always like a show up game player whenever he needs to show up. Granted, this could be one of those times in the restart where it's just him showing up for games, but I could see this being the fact where he becomes the legitimate 2 on that roster.
So I think it's crazy at how he got traded for literally, like I said on the show
Bag
Monday,
of chips.
he got traded for a bag of chips. He got traded for less than D Hop. Like it's just a joke.
cash consideration.
Cash considerations. Like, and for me, I feel like I hope this is him coming out and proving what he's worth, man. Because I feel like the right system will bring out. Prime example is like the Pelicans. Brandon Ingram has shown he's a dog and he's a savage. And I think it just goes to show, like, you get put in the right system, I think anybody will flourish. So hopefully for Warren, it's a consecutive thing and he brings it to the table. Because the case was, man, if Oladipo was healthier, because I think that's, you can still see he's not himself. He's really not playing a lot. So I think for him it's going to be interesting.
Suns get a few dollars.
Dang. And then I got another question. Are you worried about Zion? Because for me, man, he looks out of shape and he looks tired. Are you worried about that?
Considering where the league is at the moment, like you said, sports took off a few months. Whenever it had ended, Zion was probably into his best shape, even through college and his 40 games of pro play.
19.
Okay, I meant like season wise, but he only had 19. TJ, MF, and Warren. No, I'm not really worried about Zion. If he can get into a true professional training program and cut down some weight, it'll be better for him.
Is OKC? Mattel said, "Is OKC the sleeper team in the West?"
Yes.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know how you can sleep on them when they've been playing this kind of good ball all year.
Because nobody talks the hype about them as much because they don't really have any big names anymore. They've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
That's a long-ass name.
His name's SGA. Chris Paul isn't the player he used to be anymore, so nobody hypes him up. He is not the Chris Paul of.
Chris Paul is resurgent this year. I don't know who you've been watching. You've been watching somebody else named Paul.
I'm not saying he's not having a good year this year. I'm saying he's not the player he used to be. He's not the guy that it's like, oh shit. Like,
bro, literally the only thing that has came from OKC without Russell Westbrook is Chris Paul, and they're the number 5 or 6 seed. You're crazy if you're saying Chris Paul is not playing basketball.
I'm not saying he's not playing basketball. That's not what I'm saying.
Well, you said
he's not the player he used to be.
He's been. He's better. Because the thing about Chris Paul, what stands different than anybody else is he's the best floor general in the NBA besides LeBron James. He can lead a team and lead an offense and control the pace, control the tempo, and be a leader, which is why you got young guys playing their butts off and why they're the number 6 seed. I think that's
even
ridiculous.
The people who are playing their butts off isn't proving the fact that what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's doing. Since the All-Star break, he's shooting 80% from mid-range. That's not because of Chris Paul.
So you don't think Chris Paul has anything to do with him?
No, I'm not saying he's not having a good season. He can have a good season and not be the player that he used to be.
How?
That is still a thing. It's not exclusively.
Is his numbers down or up from last year to this year?
I honestly don't know his numbers.
So how are you going to say he's not?
Because he's not. If you talk about previous Chris Paul, it's not like when he was on the Rockets and he went down, or when he was on the Clippers and he went down. When he was with the Clippers were probably the best team in the league at one point because they were the most hyped because they were Lob City. Then he gets traded. He goes to wherever he went. He went to Houston after LA, right? Yeah. Then he's in Houston, and they're like, oh, my God, Rockets are going to win a championship. He goes down, and they lose because James Harden chokes in the playoffs. That team was supposed to win the championship. But then all of a sudden, he now is in OKC, and he's not the player that he used to be. You don't put him on that roster and say they're going to win a championship.
Okay, but that's not because he's not who he was. It's because the West maybe has, I don't know, the best player in basketball, and I don't know, maybe the second best player, and maybe, I don't know, maybe the third best player in basketball. I don't know. Maybe that's why.
Kirk Cousins.
Are we not giving Giannis any sort of love, or
KD, or Kemba?
So,
or
no, I do not. Honestly, I think Giannis is the 4th best player in basketball.
But no, as I was getting to the point,
I'm sorry, what?
The most hyped player on the Thunder is what Russell Westbrook left whenever he left OKC, and that's Steven Adams. He is their most talked about player.
Pitt.
And that's why I think they're slept on, because nobody really gives them the hype that they.
Yeah, that's what kind of Littell said, as nobody's expecting OKC to win. So that's why I called him a sleeper. Chris Paul's literally making everybody better on the team. I think they're a threat just about anybody.
Nobody wants to play the Thunder. I can agree. I can absolutely agree with that. I mean, if we were talking about Chris Paul's stats earlier, your boy Dunn pulled him up. He's having a much better year this year than he did whenever he was with the Rockets in terms of scoring and facilitating efficiently. But Damian's right in thinking that he's not the player he was in his prime. But Courtney, you got a good point too, that he's still elevating the rest of that team. That team is not anywhere near where they are without him.
And that doesn't have to be exclusively.
They both true.
Yeah.
They both true.
Facts.
Hey,
but one fun fact, though. The NBA and NHL both COVID-free.
0 cases.
Zero.
Yeah.
And
It's almost like the bubble was a good idea. Who would have thought?
And hey, I'm gonna talk about that for our NFL segment. I don't know if we're ready to transition. Dame, you got any predictions?
Actually, my last topic. I was thinking today. Littell had mentioned it at the end of the show last night about wanting to be on
It's
the
dangerous
show.
when you get thinking.
No, it's actually, I think, could be good. If anybody is interested at any point and they want to have a reasonable discussion about things, I'm more than willing to bring guests on periodically onto the show. It is Monday nights, Dame Calls Game. And to hand it off to Courtney and George for football, today something popped up saying that Derek Carr, not David, that's the bad quarterback.
They're both bad.
Derek Carr will now be wearing a sleeve in honor of Kobe Bryant because he said that Kobe meant so much to him as an athlete.
Computer sleeve.
So, I will hand it off to
It
you.
ain't gonna make him worse.
Out because I'm an idiot and forgot my computer charger.
All right,
You say something like technical difficulties or.
all right, guys.
Someone's made it or something.
We're about to get real.
I'll talk to you later.
So to start it off, I'm just going to start right at the top, George. The post today, the most overrated players
Oh, I got to pull that up.
in football. So let me set this record straight. Whoever said Odell Beckham Jr. is overrated,
Scrub.
please do me a favor and just watch any game from Cleveland last year that Odell Beckham played in. And watch it how many times Odell Beckham is having his hand up in the air with nobody on him and looking back and having Baker Mayfield as his quarterback. I feel like it's so disrespectful. Somebody said Christian McCaffrey, I thought was like absolutely laughable.
That was no basis to that. If you said Christian McCaffrey, I would love to tell you alphabetically the 26 reasons why you're wrong.
Hey, speaking of which, Littell said Dak. We'll get to that. But, hey, Littell, I want to say thank you just from what Dame said. You tuning in last night and then tuning in again. Man, that's huge. Thank you for contributing to just watching us.
Remember, you're not allowed to be on the show without a do-rag if I'm on the show. Shout out to your waves, bro.
But to Courtney's point, and again, I said it in the chat in one of the streams that we were talking about Odell. The hard part is wide receivers need to make the best of what they have, their opportunities. He had 80 catches on top of I don't even know how many different targets. We're not going to harp on Odell being a scrub and overhyped. I'll just go over the quick stuff that I remember instead of trying to find the thread that I was talking about.
74 catches on 133 targets.
Thanks. But he was 29th with overall yardage, 49th with overall touchdowns, and some other atrocious number on yards per game.
So that means he's overrated
because people put him in the top 10 where he barely broke the top 25 in any quarterback or any wide receiver statistic.
So Julio Jones almost never scores. Does that mean he's not a top 5, top 10?
But he almost has 2,000 yards almost every single year with not nearly as many targets.
They don't have 1,000 yards this past year.
Yes, on 70 targets that he could have taken possibly more.
No, but
But like Robbie said, he had multiple other targets. And again, we'd have to break down total film.
what you call targets, is it like Odell catchable targets, or is it Baker Mayfield throwing the ball?
Baker Mayfield throwing the ball.
Okay, so that's
Towards
not
his
really a
general
target.
area.
No, general area can be like,
No, it's targets are directly to him,
but
not if he's throwing over there and
Nah.
Odell's on backside.
but if Odell has to like,
If it's in the vicinity of, technically it is a target. So it could be 40 feet away, but if he's the
Exactly.
closest receiver, that's his target.
Yeah,
if he throws it 8 feet in the air, it will to Odell Beckham.
but
It is in.
I will also say Landry Jones. He's not even the best wide receiver
Jarvis
on his
Landry.
teams.
Yes, he is.
Whatever. Landry Jones is also probably better than him.
Oh my god.
But
Yo, I'm not gonna stand for that shit. Landry Jones is a shit.
First of all,
Yo, if we brought Landry Jones on the show right now, he'd be the 5th best quarterback with a headset.
That's right.
listen,
And I can't even throw.
Odell Beckham. Like, all right, so that's one guy.
I'm one of them
again,
running
that's
quarterbacks.
again. I'm just looking at statistics.
But statistically,
Out of his entire career, I still wouldn't. I'd put him top 10, but I still think he's overrated.
Okay,
You
so
think he'd
because
wear shorts than Courtney?
It doesn't. I have to look it up, and I guarantee you, he has more drops than touchdowns throughout his career.
Oh, that's
It's because he also tries to showboat with the only thing that he's relevant for, which is that one-hand grab.
or are we going to talk about that he had Eli Manning as his quarterback and he went to Baker Mayfield? Does that not account for anything?
But he still had But if you're using thousands of yards as a bar to make him good, through his years with Eli, he had 1,000+ yards.
But does that mean any? Think about it. If he's the only option,
but again, we need to find a standard
yes,
of measurement.
the standard tomorrow will be set for our NFL Top 100.
So he's still a scrub.
Sure.
Okay, copy.
All right.
I
Anyway,
will say this. I didn't even realize this. Odell finished last season leading the NFL in drops and had an 8.3% drop rate. That's not good. That's on catchable balls.
So once again, targets per catches minus yards.
Now, the counterpoint to that is I'm on playerprofiler.com in case anyone's curious. Check it out. It's pretty cool.
Yes.
He had 99 catchable targets. That's 74.4% of his targets. That's 69th in the NFL. Nice. So he really did not get as many good balls going his way as he needed.
stop space. Anyway, so we're going to move on to him. Another guy that somebody said, besides Christian McCaffrey, was Russell Wilson. I mean, let's be honest. I would literally argue that value, as far as quarterbacks, you can put him equally up there with Pat Mahomes, if not.
No, I'm putting Russell Wilson ahead of.
Yes.
So again, we talked about the 3 guys that we put at quarterback positions of Patty Mahomes, Russell Wilson, and Lamar Jackson as of last year.
He wouldn't be my third.
Arguably.
Yeah.
But over the years, Russell Wilson has done more with less, better than any quarterback that I could ever remember. And
Russell Wilson has had no functional offensive line in 8 years.
no, since the Max Unger trade, they have been literally rotating defensive linemen in to the offensive position. To the offensive line position.
They had to say, well, I apologize.
Hey, so I just feel like, okay, so we agree on that, and we'll discuss it. So, Hey, so Littell, you keep saying Dak Prescott. Listen to me. I do not think Dak Prescott is overrated. I think he's underrated. Listen to me. When you have, yes, the offensive line is good. They had Amari Cooper, but that comes with an asterisk because he's not reliable. He's not consistent. And I think Zeke had a down year in his standards, but I still think Zeke is not overrated. I mean, Zeke is not appreciated as much, but Dak does what you need Dak to do. I feel like when you have a position where your head coach is Jason Garrett, I mean, I'm going to give Dak a pass because I feel like when you come in, since he's been in the league, he's been reliable. He's been there every day. He works his butt off in and out. He's a true leader on and off the field. And I feel like for me, I don't think he's overrated. because we don't really consider him a top 5 quarterback. I feel like if he was the top 5 quarterback, you can say he's overrated. But I feel like we put him in that top 10 behind Kirk Cousins, which that's my – if you don't know, Kirk Cousins is my dude just because he's my dude.
Rob, who is that? Oh, no.
You didn't hear the Kirk Cousins like 5 times earlier. What the hell's dude doing, man?
About the jump lobby.
Dude, hey, he came out of the cabinet, dude. You ever see those videos where like people come out of their cabinet and they take food and then they go back into the cabinet and shit?
When Loudmouth gets big enough that I can live by myself, y'all will never have to see my roommates in the back.
Wow, you better hope your old lady ain't close.
Oh no, she's got a night off for me tonight.
Lucky lady.
Yeah, saying.
So while he's looking at what Dak is, if you don't know, Wednesday will be tomorrow.
Yeah,
we're going to be breaking down the top 100 NFL players. We're going to go back categories, and we're going to talk about who we think should have been in the top 100, and if there's anybody who should have moved up. Excuse me, I apologize.
The inaugural episode of
You're distracted by the streaker behind Robbie.
It's a flesh-colored shirt. He's dressed.
Hey, do we want to go ahead and little promotion with the Bombshell Bowling for one with the shirts, and then for our guest next week.
It's not me. Don't point at me.
We had it for a second. Well, technical difficulties.
No,
Short spurt.
Hey.
There it is. There you go.
Beautiful
Good job, Carly.
But Miss Michelle over at Bombshell Bowling takes care of all of our Loudmouth Sports Talk merchandise. She is the official outfitter for Loudmouth. Right now, we got the tees for the men and women, and then we got the tanks for the men and women. The tanks we're running through the rest of this month.
Yes, 2 more weeks for the tank.
Yeah, tanks got about 2 more weeks to get your orders in. And then they're going to be out for at least the summer. And then we got, again, the preview we did last week of the hoodies. So those are going to be coming out soon for pre-order.
When the sale ends on the muscle tees, the start of the pre-order for the hoodies will be available.
What Courtney said.
So again, shout out to Bombshell Bowling, Miss Michelle, hooking us up down there in DC. We appreciate everything she's been able to do. And then we want to talk about our guests for the roundtable next week.
Court, before I don't want to cut you off, but we got to get her on the show one day. Got to get her on the show.
Talk to her about it.
Yep.
Yeah, we can definitely talk to her about it, just to let her tell her piece.
Anyways, sorry.
No, go ahead. So what Rob was alluding to, he hooked us up with a great guest. And we can go ahead, Rob. You can introduce him.
We got former West Allegheny star, Pitt tight end. He played 6 years in the NFL. Mr. Doran Dickerson's going to be on the show with us Tuesday. We got some, good questions for him. A little bit of old Pitt talk, maybe some West A talk. So I watched him play there. And then we'll get some little NFL questions for him. And then hopefully Sean will be on the show with us on Tuesday also while we're talking to Mr. Dickerson because there's a little venture that he went through that Sean would be pretty interested in talking to him about. Pretty sure.
Yeah, we're real excited with that. We've been working on some people to talk to through all this.
So back to NFL football. George, how do you – so Odell – speaking of Odell, he made some comments about how the NFL –
Speaking of bubbles.
Yes, speaking of bubbles, how the NFL has acted and how he feels the NFL treats their players. And there's a lot of people in the comments who are kind of upset about it. So before I go, George, how do you feel about players playing the NFL with the COVID and et cetera?
So, again, this is a multi-edged sword that we kind of went over last week. As much as I believe that the NFL, I guess, should have found a better way to do a kind of a roundabout bubble situation just because I don't think you can fit 32 teams in the one or multiple hub cities. That would be real weird with conferences. Whereas East and West in the NHL is easy. East and West, or just the idea of the whole entire NBA, is a little bit easier for bubble cities. The NBA, I feel like, could do a lot better. The comments from Odell apparently came weeks before he actually got to the Browns facility, but only got released this past week. And I guess after he got to the Browns facility, he was impressed with the safety protocol. So it was kind of a weird thing that kind of went through with the news stories. But like we kind of got into through the threads that we started talking about Odell. The hard part too is these guys have opportunities. They have the opportunity to opt out. They also have the opportunity, just like they have their own personal trainers, to take, again, their health into their own matters. Unfortunately, with most of the states, as of at least right now, all of these teams have to do is meet the CDC guidelines. And like we alluded to in the last show, unfortunately, with how the NFL works, and I can't speak for how the players are also, but I feel like with a mix between the owners, the league office, and the players, the overall idea of COVID protection wasn't ran as best as it could. But since they decided to do mandatory testing every day, the league's kind of making do with what they can to just basically make CDC guideline to make the league happen to make money.
So I feel like I'm the complete opposite. Odell has a point because I feel like the NFL, they had the most time to prepare and they are the least prepared. And to me, I feel like he used a bad he kind of came off as if he was saying like the owners treat us like slaves, which I think he didn't mean. But at the same time, I feel like, again, you're telling him he's scheduled to make 19.5 mil, and you're telling him, hey, you don't need to play. You're making millions of dollars. Just do it. Put your life at risk. But then if you opt out, we'll only give you $350,000. Making 19.5 mil versus 300,000 is a huge difference. Now, compared to us, where we would love to make $3,000 to play the sport we love, right? But it's different when you feel like you're valued at a certain amount and you're used to that and you're comfortable. And so I think Odell, he has a point because it's obvious that NFL has done nothing. They're kind of acting like, hey, this isn't as serious, and until we really deal with it, then we're going to do something. Compared to the NHL commissioner and the NBA commissioner, to where they showed that they were serious about it. Players were able to buy in because the NBA came out and said, we're going to protect you as best as we could. And now if you choose not to go, we get it. But if you choose to do this, then this is how we'll protect you. You can't tell me the NFL, who has that much money, is not able to do multiple bubbles. It's very possible for you to bubble up in a hotel.
They could at least do 4 bubbles. They could. They could do 4.
The only reason I think they can't do bubbles is, especially the West Coast teams, you kind of could, but like to get the games off, you could do it, but in my opinion, there'd be a huge asterisk next to this season compared to the NHL and NBA, because again, Pittsburgh wouldn't be able to play. I'd even have to look at the actual schedules, but like Pittsburgh would only be able to play people in their region.
Yeah.
Miami would only be able to play people in their region. Seattle would only be able to play this handful of teams that they normally don't play.
Right.
So you wouldn't actually be playing your division.
But I also think you can do something to show that you want to try a bubble. You want to, don't be like, oh, well, players probably won't buy in, no bitch and complain anyway. But show up, like do something.
But we don't. So the other thing too is we don't know what's actually happening behind the scenes.
I like these in-person shows because I can hit you.
I'll smack the fuck out of you.
Do it.
But again, the only thing we've heard so far is, and again, I don't want to take it that so negative way, but Odell Beckham Jr. is a
You were
crybaby
gonna call him a
bitch.
baby. You were gonna call him a baby. Yes, you were.
Crybaby bitch
Oh my god.
that fights kicker nets
Oh my god.
and
Kicks their asses.
fights Gatorade coolers. Like, I put it this way: if J.J. Watt came out and said, "I'm not comfortable to play because the NFL's not doing something right," or if Deshaun Watson came out and said something, or even a rookie like Tua, outside of anybody that had a higher, I don't want to say character, but a higher resolve to me than Odell Beckham that always piss moans and complains.
So what I'm not going to let happen is for you to treat Odell like he's this inhuman,
a
inconsiderate.
baby?
No, but he's
Kirk
not.
Cousins.
Listen, since when did we become? No, but stop.
But again,
no,
all that I'm looking at is a person that constantly complains, still complaining, instead of a person that doesn't complain saying, "Hey guys, I have an issue." That's where I'm coming at.
That's a good point.
If it was somebody that had a resume of anything, of not fighting a kicking net because he's not getting what he wants, I'd be okay with it. But for somebody of his manner to come out 2 weeks ago before even stepping foot in an NFL facility, I can't take him with a grain of salt of honesty. That's my thought. But I mean, if Russell Wilson came out and said, "Hey, bro, I don't know how I feel about this," that's fine. He came out about it through the CBA. I still think the CBA was a joke because the NFLPA, and again, I talked about this in the thread that we had. The NFLPA is a joke because the haves and the have-nots. So this again, I'll say the 5% of athletes that are starters or top-tier all-stars. We're looking at the CBA one way this year, and the guys that were on the bubble to practice squad, we're looking at the CBA a different way. And there is no meat in the middle, even between those people, let alone the NFLPA and ownership. So, like, that's where, at least for me, why the NFL's so fucky is not only is there distrust between the different levels, but then there's even dishonesty or untrust between the player levels. That's why I think everything with even a city by city bubble would absolutely burst. And I've been thinking about it since the last time we talked. Like, I don't see certain NFL guys saying, "Yes, I'll leave my family and go sit in a hotel room for 18 weeks essentially, and follow a strict setup." But that, again, that's me.
And then my biggest thing, and this is where I feel like the players of the NFL and the owners are so far apart because there's no trust. There's no security. There's no level of – I feel like if the players felt like they were understood and they were listened to, I feel like it would have been a different situation. Because, again, now, of course, the NBA, they have a little amount of people. The NHL have smaller rosters and locker rooms. But their rapport with their commissioner and the owners, you could tell they want to – if I know that I can go somewhere where I know these guys care about me and they want the best interest, obviously they want to make money, but they care about us, then I'm probably going to be more susceptible to try something compared to the NFL where you see that they don't care about you. The moment you're not relevant,
I mean, every league's like that. Once you become non-viable to them, they don't give a fuck.
But it's not. But the NFL has shown that they do not care. And like you said, the CBAs,
that's because
they beat their head in because the owners are going to keep pouring on and keep protecting themselves and give a little because they know that we know that we can get the littlest. Like,
well, we're looking at it. Again, any companies like that.
But
I don't care what company you're a part of. You look from the business standpoint of things. Yes, okay. We say care, but like I'd like to really talk to like an NBA owner And do they really give a flying fuck? Or does it just the idea that you only have a 12-man roster mean you can be more personable? Now, again, I've listened to more than enough Mark Cuban conversations that I generally think he cares about not only his team, but even like his janitors and concession people in his stadium.
Well, if you think about that, that's money coming into his pocket. If he doesn't care, he loses that money.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he runs it as a great business.
But I think for the NFL, they're just so big that they don't get to a point that they just
Well,
don't.
one thing is like what Courtney was saying with how many people go into the bubble. Like the NHL each team has 53 people. I know that like your regular NFL roster is 53-man roster.
Yeah.
But like the NHL, each team has 53 people, and there's still 0 cases. I mean, so it can be done. You know what I mean? It's. I just find it ludicrous that they still haven't figured out a way to
not come up with a plan for a bubble shows exactly how they feel, in my opinion. To not even consider it, to not even have a plan for a bubble shows that they don't find it important. They want to be like, it doesn't matter what city you're in. It doesn't matter what it is. We're the NFL and we can do whatever we want. And if you don't like it, we're going to move the deadline up and make a decision so we can move on.
Yep.
I also think the NFL also has way more resources than most other leagues. That they generally just think that they can either field it or eliminate it to a certain point, even without a bubble. Because, like I said, I'm assuming from a fan standpoint that we still don't know dick about any of the things that they plan on doing, just for the solid fact that Eric Ebron from the Steelers was talking about having to leave his family for the season. So I don't know if that's a personal decision of his or if that's a team decision in what's going on there. Because again, essentially what we're alluding to is players are able to do whatever they want willy-nilly, essentially like the NBA or MLB. But again, we don't know the full parameters.
Size.
Parameters of what they're doing. Like, again, I agree with Courtney, and like we talked about it last week, that it's totally viable for each city to do a single bubble. I just think with how the conferences or divisions are laid out and the conferences are laid out, it would be a very big asterisk on the season of this isn't real NFL. We're trying to get games off as a team, as a franchise, and just rolling into a season.
But I still feel like it doesn't have to be like that because you can't tell me every city, you can't be like, okay, this is the team hotel right next to the football field. You practice at, for instance,
is that per team?
Yes, per team. They have enough money.
Again, we're talking about,
and you go from one bus, quarantine, bleach it, wipe it down, to one plane, quarantine, bleach it, wipe it down.
But we don't know if that's what they're doing. Like I alluded to, Eric Ebron said he was leaving his family. So does that mean he's taking that onto his own accord?
Hey, 3 months. The NHL players are leaving there for 2.5 months.
No, I completely agree that's easy to be done. But like I'm saying, like I said, the NFL as a whole, you have 2 teams in New York. You have the Jets and the Giants that are in opposite divisions and opposite conferences. So do they leave and then go somewhere else? And you also have to, and we have, like I said, we are looking at, are we doing city by city bubbles? Are we doing an actual hub city? So we do 4 hubs, whereas it's almost north, south, southeast, and west. Because again, they're potential all viable things, but it's buying an entire hotel.
Or do you just go ahead and bite the bullet and shorten up your season?
Right. And
you know what I mean? You shorten up your season and say, hey, these 8 teams you play each other, there's 7, and then you play 3 more of them, you play 10-game season, and then you go from there. And then you start your playoffs and you maybe expand your playoffs for this season, kind of like the NHL did. You can do the same thing that they did. The guinea pig is there for you, and it's worked.
Well, UFC has had huge success with it so far. Now, granted, some fighters that they had come in tested positive, whether it be asymptomatic or actually having it, they were able to field it. But they also quarantined 72 hours before getting onto a plane, quarantining another 72 hours after getting to wherever the venue was, then the entire corner and fighters then testing and then going from there. I mean, the daily testing right then and there, you're going to find out real quick and real easy who's healthy and who's not. I mean, so that was like a big thing with the NFL versus pretty much everybody else. I think everybody else is only testing on a weekly basis.
Yeah, NHL's still doing every day.
Oh, they do every day?
Every day.
The biggest problem the NFL could have with moving into bubbles and, spending more money on COVID precautionary moves is those poor owners would lose more money.
Oh, baby.
I know. It breaks your heart to hear that.
The richest freaking asshats in the freaking country.
I'm telling you.
And they're so worried about a couple bucks. You know what I mean?
That's the biggest problem, man. In the moment, they feel like you want to be like, oh, no. Like, for example.
Or go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, that's part of it too, is the idea of loss of money. They're already talking about the salary cap for the league dropping to 50% next year because
can't leave it alone.
because of the loss of revenue between seating and concessions and stuff.
Not 50% is steep. That's taking it out on the players for a nationwide pandemic. That would cause a strike. That's
why you're seeing so many contracts being done now. Even though the original CBA was talking about the salary cap going up next year, because of the pandemic and the loss of the potential revenue, they've already said that the salary cap's going to drop tremendously next year.
Here's the thing with the salary cap. If they are willing to put an upper limit on the amount that you can pay the players who are the revenue drivers of this business, if they're allowed to put a cap on the upper limit, why wouldn't – I mean, I know the answer is because the owners are greedy. But, with a longer and more eloquent explanation that doesn't necessarily villainize the villains as they are, why on earth would they not put a lower limit also? If it's such a small line item compared to what these teams are spending and earning, it feels like it's kind of humongous bullshit to cut it in half based on not making the money. Like, you're not selling a product if you put George, Robbie, and Rob on the fucking field instead of Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, and Baker Dogshit Mayfield. It doesn't matter that the Browns are bad. If they put the three of us out there instead of the three of them, they're not getting viewers. And the viewers are driving just the tiny little shred of money that they'd be earning anyway. So cutting the salary cap and punishing your players for something that no one had any control over, punishing some of the lower – if we're talking about the importance to an industry, the players are the most important thing in the football industry. They are the lowest paid, most important component of any industry outside of education.
Not true. The United States Marine Corps and the United States military, but we'll have.
I don't count that as an industry. I count that as y'all getting screwed by a government. That's a whole nother thing.
Okay, good point.
Yeah, no, military is not an industry. Military is good men getting the shaft with a being told
shit for stopping a bullet. Yeah, that's
exactly
ridiculous.
I honestly, I definitely agree. Oh wait, I'm like hiding from the camera. Hold on, never mind. I don't know how to
Good.
Bring him back. He's pretty.
I couldn't figure it out. There we go. I'm too dark. We'll go back to it. It just looked like a black face, like I was a lot.
I'm weak.
But no, it's crazy. The NFL and the NCAA gets the most out of their players on the field and the most out of their pockets and treat them like shit.
Mm-hmm.
The only people who treat them worse is never mind. I'm not going to
say.
The fans. The fans are the only ones who treat them worse, and the only reason that the fans treat them worse is because guys like George will say that Odell Beckham is trash.
Yeah. And overrated and a crybaby because he's passionate.
Well, he is a crybaby, but he's not overrated. I think he's an outstanding wide receiver. The numbers don't tell all the story.
Yep. Because if you look at it, Jameis, and I go back to the Jameis Winston thing.
Crab legs.
You don't eat crab legs anymore. He's vegan.
Vegan Jameis.
I can't wait till Jameis takes over in New Orleans, and I can rub everybody's nose in it that said that was a bad pickup.
Taysom Hill. Jameis will be somewhere nowhere next year.
No, Bree's going to retire. Jameis is going to take over, and Jameis is going to lead them to big numbers.
Second string right
Yes, he is. He is their second.
No, he's their second string. Taysom Hill's not listed as second string. Taysom Hill is listed as tight end receiver back.
76.
Tight end receiver back.
H-back.
But,
Gunner.
So speaking of the NCAA, the TCU football team is dealing with a lot of.
They're not dealing with anything. That was, once again, another crybaby. Trying to put a man out on this is exactly what me and you were talking about.
Show both of us.
I can't.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Rob's big ass.
Sideways.
Too big.
Why is it gotta be me?
Because you got
I
a
can't
big ass
help.
head and
I
look
can't
for it.
help it. He's sitting in the doorway and you can't see him.
Yeah, switch seats with Courtney.
Yeah.
Actually, no, that looks good.
Okay.
We're sitting on the couch together and spoon.
No, we have to have
There it is. Perfect.
But anyway, so listen. So
Plus, you don't like
look
me
into
on
it
it. You're
more, and we talked about it.
This is the new sex allegations.
But and then if you look at it, so the fact that prime example, you coach me. If you ever caught me saying the N-word during film,
I tell you stop.
but you wouldn't say stop. You would say stop saying the N-word. You wouldn't say stop saying.
Well, that's what he said. He said stop saying that.
Right, but why do you?
And he said what? And of course, he got caught in a trap. And
There's no.
Yeah, he did.
stop saying, but he didn't say a hard R. If you look at the post from the other TCU players, he said, stop saying that word.
Yes, I get it. But at the same point, it's like you wouldn't say that word, whether you could or you would never.
But if
tell
you
me,
questioned what I meant,
but you still wouldn't say it.
I wouldn't say it out in public. I'd probably come over to you and say, motherfucker, stop saying.
No, but you could be like the N-word, and like you can say the N-word, and everybody knows what the N-word is. You don't need to be like, hey,
Nerds.
free enough. I can be like, hey, stop saying nigga. Like you wouldn't. You would not do it.
But like,
Are we going to bleep that?
No, I'm sorry. I mean, Black Lives Matter.
I was literally about to say he's allowed to say it, and Courtney goes, this is why we can't fucking work together.
This is why we don't have nice things.
I'm literally
Back to
had
the point
same
at
thought
hand.
process as him. What
Back to the
fuck?
point at hand. Now, Gary Patterson has had some guys come out, guys that have played for him for years, guys that you're saying, context is, no matter what the context, coach slipped up, but this is a guy that we can vouch for. He's not a racist. So, do you take their word? I mean, because I'm willing to believe.
But it's not about
track record.
like George said, and I get it. He called me this and he's a racist because he said a word. That's not really what it is. But do I feel like for you to do it, I feel like you don't have to be racist for you to feel like you're entitled to just be okay and say whatever you feel like and be, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Like socially stupid, I guess.
Here's the only thing that I can say about that is we slip. People slip. Like that's one of the worst words you can slip with as a white dude. But we slip. I shouldn't swear in front of my grandmother, but it's such a part of my it's something that I'm around all the time.
She cusses like a sailor anyway.
But it's not the same thing. And here's my biggest point, and I'm glad you said that. It is not as simple because where you grow up and who you are and who you grow up around dictates how you feel about it. Because I grow up, right where I grew up, dudes in the hood, you say the N-word regardless of whether it's N-A or E-R, the E-R should be automatically punched in the face, right? But it's like rappers, right? When you're rapping music, you can't be like, no, you can't say that word. But I'm listening to the song, I bought your music. But it's like at the same time, for the coach, when you're a coach, you don't know where that kid grew up at. You don't know how he acts. So you can't just be like, hey, you need to stop saying that word. And you're like, what word?
See, that's where professionalism and then taking yourself to another level starts coming in, because I don't want it to seem like you're in my house, you do what I say, but at a certain level, he's conducting a meeting.
Yes.
And again, I don't know what the grand context.
Yeah, we don't know what the context was that it was said in prior to him saying it, and maybe if it's a bum slapping like great game, like that might be a different situation. He would just it would just go in one ear and out the other with him. But if I'm Gary Patterson, and I'm not, I can't speak for him. He's just another dude. But if I'm him and I hear that and I hear something if I hear any kind of word in any sort of hostile scenario, I'm gonna be more in tune. I'm gonna be tuned more into it and try and put the kibosh on it a lot faster than if it's.
Prime example. I coach, as you can see, at Penn Hills today. I swear to goodness, we're doing conditioning, right? And I'm gonna give you a little quick brief.
You promise you're doing conditioning?
Right? Huh?
You promise you're doing conditioning? You swear to goodness?
Yes.
Okay, that's important.
Right. So we're conditioning, and guys are getting chirpy, and this dude goes, "Hurry up, y'all need to stop playing." You know what the head coach does? He says, "We got 7 100s for somebody saying the N-word." Do you think he's gonna be like, "Hey, we got 7 ones for saying niggas"? You'd be like, "What?" And I only say that because it's the way you go about it. For you to just blatantly feel like I'm okay to just come out. Rob would never come out and say it to one of his kids. You would never, no matter what, because you know immediately that is not okay. It doesn't matter whether you slip up. It's not a slip up. It's not a mistake. We see it with Iowa where they're like, "Oh, well, it's Iowa. What do you expect?" So now you can't go to a school and expect to be treated right and be treated equally as a person. And I'm not saying it's, and again, I'm not saying it's the coach. I'm not calling him a racist. I'm not, but it's at the same time, I feel like you're socially stupid and in debt for not considering that you should not say that.
So again, I want to put complete context on this situation. And this is from another TCU player that was in this same meeting. And he said, and I quote, and I'll bleep out words so people don't freak the fuck out.
Wait, I'll say it.
No, all right, read that.
Okay. Bruh, the man said, "Stop saying N-word in meetings." Dylan was like, "What?" Coach P said, "You've been saying niggas in meetings, you nigger." Now, the N-word shouldn't be used in any form or fashion, but Dylan wrong for making it seem that way. Shit is soft of you, son.
This is a tweet. And again, Courtney just reads it without putting it in. But what the guy said is Coach P said, "A
niggas."
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What the? And then the guy tried switching the word to
nigger.
Oh.
And that's where the fucked up part is.
Yes.
Now it went from him saying
nigga
or correcting the person to outright calling him a
nigger.
And that's where the mix is. And you have a player that was allegedly told he was going to get playing time to not getting as many snaps as he wanted, trying to come out and absolutely drag Coach P's character and TCU through the gravel. That's where I have an issue with it. And that's why I attributed it to the misinformation of sexual allegation or
the falsifying of information for sexual allegation.
That guy.
Yes.
That's where I have an issue with it.
Yeah. Now again, and now this is why I said I'm not calling Coach Pete a racist. I'm not calling him like Robbie said, one mistake doesn't define who you are as a person. But I feel like at the same time, you should not feel like, hey, I am Coach Peterson, this is my house. And again, he shouldn't have said it. I get it. Wrong, but the kid needs to move on and grow the fuck up. That's pretty much what this whole thing is about.
And again, by all means, again, Courtney played for me, and
I love this guy to death.
And again, you'd say we were what, 50-50?
What?
Color.
So when you first got there, we were like 70-30, and then it became the brother shit. You know what I'm saying? Look, whole team was brothers. You know what I'm saying? It became like an 80-20.
But again, I get Courtney's point, and more than enough did I have this same situation. Now, granted, I didn't say the word, but no, I didn't.
I'm about to call George Fred.
But
he called
I feel
you were on the bench anyway. It didn't matter.
Hold up. No, seriously. Stop disrespecting me. Call me the co-owner of Loudmouth Sports Talk from here on out. You don't call me anything else. You know damn well I didn't
Bench
sit
warmer.
unless I was ineligible.
Benchwarmer. Unless I was ineligible. No, but hey, and also, but like seriously, like that. And again, I understand the time that we're in, and I can't express how happy I am with the group that we've surrounded ourselves with.
Besides Sean.
You put your phone on a hip clip.
The whole black joke was this because you couldn't see my hand. No, my phone's right here, weirdo.
Where'd you get it from? Off of your hip clip? Your little belt clip?
It's on the couch.
Yo, Courtney's the oldest 23-year-old man on the planet.
Listen, where did you pull your phone from? See, if you weren't talking,
this is my
he looked at himself talking.
Hey, Rob, to answer your question, he totally has a leather pouch that has a magnet that he slides his phone into.
You might as well wear a fanny pack in, homo. I mean, Jesus.
He probably
better than the 2 cans of string he used to use.
But
he's wearing a schmedium shirt today too.
It's an extra large.
That's definitely an extra schmedium.
But I will take my shirt off right now.
No, we don't need to see your dick hanging out.
Don't pay enough for that.
Belly
We saw a naked dude running behind Robbie before, man. We don't need that.
It was his skin-colored shirt, I swear.
No, but in all this is why we're so glad to have the group, like George was saying, that we have, because it means a lot for us to be able to have these conversations and
get these conversations out.
And get these conversations out. Like somebody told me today, one of my coaches, they were like, hey, man, I listened to one of your shows, and it was important because they were talking about the Lamont Wade interview, which we got a lot of feedback about how good of an interview it was, because you see Lamont Wade as an actual good person, and you see what he was talking about, and you see his platform and how he's able to use it. So we like to bring these conversations up, and just so we know, like, hey, I know this dude. I trust this dude with my life, and he's my coach. Now, if there's another coach on the team, and you're like, hey, this is the guy called you to anywhere, I'm like, yeah, maybe once or twice. No, I'm kidding. The coach but in all seriousness, I think we still need to be understandable with using that word. I feel like you can say, stop saying the N-word, and it would have been sufficient. I don't feel like you need it to be like, oh, yeah, stop saying niggas. You know what I mean? Regardless of what the situation is. The context should never be that way.
Right. And you're absolutely right that there's no context where it's okay for that to be said by Coach Patterson. Yeah. But, you know, we can all attest to slipping. Like, I'm not willing to say, oh, he didn't do anything wrong. Like, he's wrong for saying it. I don't think that he was – I'm willing to blame him and then forgive him is all I'm saying. Like, yes, he did wrong, but he seems like it's not a pattern.
Yeah.
That's not for me to judge. I'm not a TCU football player. I'm not any kind of football player. I'm actually kind of
the only thing that I took most from that whole situation is he had multiple other players come to his defense and say, fuck this dude. He's bullshitting. This is what really happened.
Yeah.
Again, but like I said, that was my big issue with, like I said, it's like people are trying to just gaslight people.
Yeah. It's a shame. Hey, can we go on to a lighter note here for a second?
Yeah, go for it.
You want to talk about Shohei Ohtani some more?
Boy, it's coming your way.
He's bad.
We need to have voiceover with the stupid little kids' baseball videos. We need that. We need that little segment. Oh, little Johnny here's he hit a humdinger right up the middle. The little dumbass stayed on first base.
Me and Robbie have already started.
Now sits at 0 balls and 2 strikes. Not sure how he's got 2 strikes on him. He's playing T-ball. One more, and he's going to have to go sit his tiny happy ass down.
The 5-minute segment that Robbie had at the beginning of this show,
I can't do
probably the funniest shit that I heard all day.
Oh my goodness.
Aside from the giant lady that tried wearing a leopard print fucking onesie today to the mall. Robbie's 5-minute segment was the funniest shit that I've seen all day or heard all day. And he does it with a straight face.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely hysterical.
It's not funny to me.
Hey, but
You're a fucking savage.
so again, needless to say, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. But in order for all lives to matter, Black lives have to matter. I don't know how we got to that, but I felt like that was a very important. And arrest the goddamn people who murdered Breonna Taylor.
Miles Cosgrove, Jonathan Mattingly,
Say their names.
Brett, piece of shit.
One team?
Brett, piece of shit.
Like, and then, hold on, real quick. Power trip session.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No. Save that for tomorrow.
Hankerson, Brett Hankerson.
Okay, well, real
That
quick. We're not going to power trip. But listen, let's talk about this society to where this woman gets killed with a no-knock warrant in her own home, and these murderers are still on the street.
I don't know about y'all, but if anybody busted into my apartment yelling police,
That's
I'm
a
pointing
whole
my Glock
different-
at him. I don't
That's
believe
a whole different show that we could spend on about the fuckery that we have right now in the U.S. The idea that the Boston bomber got his fucking life sentence taken down because of a biased jury, which I don't know how the fuck you're unbiased in that situation, but that's besides the point.
bias.
Hey, anyway, gentlemen, early morning's coming real quick for me, so I'm gonna be.
Really quick for me.
See you later, old ass.
All
Yeah,
right,
I'm gonna hop off
Hey,
too. I got old dude work in the morning too.
Friday nights. Catch
Monkey
Big O.
grinding.
Munching.
And grinding. One of these days I'll get that shit right.
He's munching. He's grinding. He's Rob.
Woo!
Friday nights.
We
Get
need
your
to
munch
add like
on.
cookie crumbs to your
Yeah,
your
cookie crumbs to your logo.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm wearing longer shorts than you, but that's okay. And I'm the old guy. And,
longer shorts than who, me?
Yeah.
yeah, you.
Those are football coach shorts.
Freaking,
What
you
you
like
talking
the
about?
freaking old dude and freaking like what is that? Billy Madison. He's like, oh, I saw his balls. Ooh, yeah, like dude, you've been sitting there freaking ball tapping the freaking camera the whole time.
Rob,
Hey, anyways,
you know you're supposed to wear shorts that only just barely cover everything.
mine go to the knee. His are like mid thigh. Look at him. Look at George eyeing him up. He's like, yeah.
These are workout shorts.
What? He
Wrong
he's
words.
like the dude from Maryland from Wedding Crashers that tackles the living shit out of Luke Wilson with his short shorts like just below his nuts.
Yes.
That is
Football
correct.
and crab cakes. My man just fucking spider walking all over the backyard. All right, brother. We'll see you
All
later.
right, guys. I'll talk to you.
I'm off too, y'all.
Rob is gone finally. Nah,
I'll see you.
you're getting out too?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Me and George will do it by ourselves.
No, it's an hour and a half. We go nap.
Oh, we go nap now.
Bedtime, buddy.
Hey, Robbie, Thursday nights ahead of the curve, 8:30. My man's hitting them out of the park lately.
It's gonna be entertaining. Maybe. See you then.
All right, brother. See you later.
Night, y'all.
But hey, guys, again, big shout out, Bombshell Bowling. Go ahead, get your merch. Obviously helps us continue to do these great shows and get guests, do all kinds of stuff. Get the shirts. Check out Miss Michelle. She's doing great things. If you're looking for a mask, go ahead. She got some masks out too. Like Rob said earlier, we got Doran next week. Pitt Stud. Down the road, we got a couple other exciting guests. We're going to hold those until next week. And then keep your eyes out for the Loudmouth hoodies. Court, you got anything else?
Yes, we also want to give a shout out to everybody who contributes on a daily basis to Loudmouth. We really appreciate all of you. Be sure to like Loudmouth Sports Talk, the Facebook page, and join Loudmouth Sports Group, the Facebook group. It's been a blessing. We are absolutely grateful for every single person. All lives matter in the group. We don't care what you look like. Only thing we ask is that you're not a Cowboys fan. But yeah, so hey, have a good night, everybody. Be safe.
All right, y'all. Have a good one.